Alright, welcome back to DecryptedTech. Today in the lab we actually are going to take a look at one of NETGEAR's network attached storage products. This is the ReadyNAS Pro 6. The reason it's called the 6 is because it actually has 6 drive bays in here. Each one of these drive bays can take, at the time of this writing, up to a 2 terabyte drive. So you have a total of 12 terabytes of raw storage, which depending upon the RAID setup you have is going to be somewhere between 9 or 6 terabyte, 5.7 terabytes of actual storage space that you can use for applications or for your files. The nice thing about the ReadyNAS here is that it is a larger product. It's also much heavier, so you're going to have less vibration from your drives that are in there. It's a little bit longer than most of the other ones that we've seen. It's also a little bit taller. They went with a different configuration. Instead of trying to run all the drives across, they went with a 3 and 3 configuration. Should give it a little bit better space constraints. In other words, you can put this in a couple of places that you might not be able to put other devices, but also may help with some heat dissipation. We'll get into that in our performance side of the review when we talk about temperatures and how this actually operates. Alright, now as you've seen, we do have a front door here. You have your standard power button, a small button for backup, and a space here, a USB 2.0 slot that you can use. This is going to be used for if you want to back up, you can plug in a drive here, hit the backup button, it's going to back up information. There is a two-way backup between this device. You can send it one direction. When you push this backup button though, it's actually backing up to the device. And again, up here you can see there's an LED screen. This is going to have different display information. We'll get this powered up and we'll show you what that looks like when it's actually enabled. Again, you turn it to the side. This side is pretty much unadorned except for the NETGEAR logo. And we flip it around to the other side. And you have a single fan opening that's going to pull in air. This is actually directly over top of the CPU that's in here. We'll take these sides off and show you what that CPU looks like here in just a few minutes. We'll flip it all the way around to the back. And we'll show you what we've got here. You have one large exhaust fan. This is going to pull air across your drives. It's a pretty sizable one. It moves slowly though, so there's not a whole lot of noise that's going to come from this. Directly to the side of it you have 2 more USB 2.0 ports. You have 2 gigabit Ethernet ports. And here's your power supply, and this is the fan that's going to cool down the power supply. Alright, so let's flip it around to the front and we'll show you exactly how the drive bays come in and out. These are pretty nice in that you push the button here, lift it up, and your drive slides out. Inside here, NETGEAR has been kind enough to throw in some Constellation ES drives. These are your SATA drives. Each one is going to be 2 terabytes, so we do have a total of 12 terabytes of raw space. And you can pull all of these out. The drive cages are metal. They slide in and out fairly easily. And you can see inside there you have some nice channels for these to slide in and out. But when we get to the final part, sometimes they actually stick. So they can be a little bit difficult to get in and out of those channels. Overall though, it's a pretty nice design and things work very smoothly. If you are running this for an extended period of time, you're going to want to make sure that you keep those clean, as dust will build up in between the drives and along the bottom, and it can make these difficult to get in and out if you were to need to replace a drive. Alright, we're going to go ahead and get one of the sides pulled off here and show you what's inside. Alright, now we got this side off. As you can see here, you have your power supply. That's pretty evident by the number of cables that are coming out. This is going to be your back plane. You can see you have 2 levels of the back plane. It's separated out pretty nicely, that it's going to allow your drives to slip in and out. This is the main housing for your actual drives. And let's go ahead and zoom in here a little bit on this and show you, see if we can get some detail on what's inside here. As you can see, you have your power right here for your drives. This is going to power the entire drive, the back plane, and that's actually going to fit into the motherboard. You can just barely see that in there through some of the cables there. We're going to flip this around, get that pulled out, and show you what that looks like on that side. It's actually much more like a small motherboard than some of the other devices that we've worked with. Alright, now we flip things around, and like we said, this is much more like a smaller motherboard, a mini ITX motherboard, than some of the other ones we've worked with that have been working off of the mini ITX form factor, but they've been powered by your Atom processors, and sometimes even smaller processors. You can see here you're running a full-length DIMM socket. This is not an SODIMM. We'll be pulling all of this out and laying it on the table so you can get a good look at it. But you can see in here that this is much more like, again, a lot like a regular computer. You have your external card here that actually plugs in via daughter card connection. That's going to be for both of your network cards, or your network parts, or gigabit Ethernet cards here. And we'll go ahead and get all this pulled off and show you exactly what it looks like. First thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and pull off the network ports. Show you how that fits in. You can see there is a power adapter there. That is actually for the fan that runs off of this. Now the interesting thing about this daughter card here is that it's connected in via a bridge. So we'll go ahead and get this out. We'll pop this off. That's for your fan. And there you can see your card. So again, this is your dual gigabit Ethernet card. You have some memory here. It also has your USB 2.0 headers and your reset switch. And it does have two fan headers that pop off of this board, and this is what's used to connect both of them together. So that connects right in here, PCIe 1X slot. Alright, our next move is going to get this system on its side. We're going to pull that motherboard out and take a closer look at it. We're also going to pull this out and take a look at the Seasonic power supply that's in there, and we'll give you a little bit more detail and information about that. Okay, so we've gotten the back off here, and you can see that it is a Seasonic power supply. This is actually going to be a Seasonic 300, so this is a 300 watt power supply. That should do you quite well, no matter what kind of drives that you're running in here. They're not going to bog down. You're not going to run into issues where you just don't have enough power to make sure that these drives are spinning correctly. You're also going to have a certain amount of power management in here that's going to help control that. One of the things we want to point out, which is a very nice feature, is that the PCB that's used for the backplane is vented. There are holes cut here. That's going to allow that fan that we talked about, the one that's set right here, to actually pull more air off of those drives and keep them cooler. This is a great feature. It's a great design. We have seen this before in some other products, but it's not a very common feature that people put into these backplanes in order to make sure that the air is traveling through them. What they more typically do is they try and make the backplane smaller and put it in different sections so that you have, more open area. Still, this vented feature of this vented design of this is actually going to be a lot better in terms of the overall performance of this device, just based on its product design. Alright, so there we've talked about that. We've also got the motherboard out, and we'll go ahead and give you a quick look at that. Again, this is a mini ITX motherboard. As you can see, the CPU fan is the same style that we've seen from many other products. The CPU fan itself actually mounts all the way through into these mounts that are hard pressed into the plane where it holds the drive. So this is the drive bays. They're inside there, and it directly mounts into that, which is another way to hold that motherboard in place. There's also a heatsink pad here that helps pull away some of the heat from the back of the CPU. So we're going to go ahead and get the CPU fan off. We're also going to get the heatsink off of the chipset and show you exactly what this board is made of. Alright, we're back. We've gotten everything out. We've gone ahead and pulled the motherboard, which has a couple slots on it. Like we talked about, this is a much clearer indication of, again, that mini ITX form factor that we talked about before. The interesting thing is that this is based off of an older generation, the 965. What we have here is we actually have a 965 memory controller. And this memory controller is actually going to allow you to support up to DDR2 800. It has FSB support for up to 1066. The CPU in this particular model is actually an E5388. That's a Pentium dual core processor. It actually has an FSB of 800 megahertz and a clock speed of 2.6 gigahertz. So it's a pretty powerful CPU for something inside of a NAS. The controller, the I/O controller here, is going to be an IHC8R. That's their 8th generation of RAID controller. It's their I/O hub. It actually is going to control the 6 SATA 2 ports that are available here, as well as control some of the USB ports. We do have that, of course, that external daughter card that is through a 4X PCIe port. We did call that a 1X earlier, but that's actually a 4X. It's going to run out, and it's going to have your 2 gigabit Ethernet controllers and, of course, those USB controllers that we showed you that are on the back. On the flip side, for the back plane, you have a PCIe 1X that's actually going to allow you, that runs out to the back plane. And, of course, that back plane has additional power. You have your 24-pin ATX power connector here, and, of course, you have a 4-pin power connector up here at the top. That's going to provide power to the overall unit. So, like we said, it's a pretty nice setup here. It is a little bit more powerful than what we've seen from some of the other ones that are running Atoms. However, we do know that a lot of work has gone into this software that's being run on these Atom processors. Intel does work very closely with the manufacturers that use the Atom processor in order to make sure that their software and their firmware that they run on this is going to be as optimized as possible to run with that Intel Atom processor. So that covers everything that we've got inside here. We're going to go ahead and get all of this put back together, get it tested, make sure it's running. And we'll go ahead and test all of the performance. We're going to run this against our virtual environment, the several VMs that we have that actually have physical workloads to run. We'll throw some files on here, throw some movies on here, throw some music on it. We'll also test some of the additional software, which is a big feature that's coming with these network attached storage devices. You can install different modules and different plugins to provide extra functionality to this. This is not just a storage box. It's actually going to allow you to make this device function in more ways than just a place to put your stuff. So we'll get this all wrapped up, cleaned up, put it up on the bench and get it running, and we'll be sure to get back to you as soon as possible with those performance details. As always, if you like this video, be sure to click on the like button, make sure you share it with all your friends, and be sure to subscribe to us so you can stay up to date with the news and reviews we have for you.